Hello, everybody, and welcome to the April 2nd Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, joined by Richard Migliore.
Yeah, I think we've got some really different kind of trips to look at. Some subtle, one not so subtle.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple of favorites we're going to show that were horses that probably should have won the race, but we want to talk about them, why they didn't win the race, what may have happened that worked against them in there, and whether or not they're horses you want to bet coming back at short prices again. And I also want to talk about the first race that we're showing, because I think there was a real tendency, at least on Thursday, that you wanted to be inside much more in two-turn races than one-turn races. And I thought the 2 Liberty Island was unlucky early in not having the speed to keep up. And the 8 horse was unlucky by post and getting caught outside. Liberty Island doesn't get good position here.
No, she doesn't. You can see the eventual winner really broke Wells going forward. But see, I think Cornelia Velasquez tried to go forward, not to make the lead, but to get better position. And she just wasn't fast enough early. And then the race takes shape, and now she's in trouble.
Yeah, that may very well be the case. You know, here's the problem, and it's something that you talk about. He probably sensed he didn't have enough horse to get inside of that horse, the 5 on the turn, because that's the position he wanted to have. There's the 4, forget about that. There's the 8, Perfect Freud we'll get to. There's the 2 Liberty Island. And when he realized he didn't have the speed to get into that spot, he had to take her back at that point. So he was caught between a rock and a hard place. But the end result was that she was shuffled completely out of position. And now you can see he's sort of got to throttle her back there.
Well, yeah, now he has no choice. I mean, the die was cast. He's in that position, and basically he has to wait. And that was one thing that Angel Cordero always used to talk about. He never wanted to be behind horses that were naturally slower than his horse. He felt like horses used more energy having to be restrained in behind those horses instead of getting in a better rhythm.
And this horse may have caused that by being a little sluggish at the start. The 8 horse, who's rallying on the outside now, he was just victimized, or she was, by her post. Because not only was she victimized by the outside post, but the 4, in spite of Mama breaking aggressively and getting that good aggressive ride by Junior Alvarado, got everything her own way. And now you see Cornelia's got to circle the field from the back of the pack. And I think it's interesting, Richie, this is a situation that probably doesn't develop in nearly the same way in a one-turn mile race.
No, because you have such a long run to the turn. You almost got a half a mile to the turn, and everybody tends to kind of come straight leaving the chute, and then the race takes shape. So even if she was a bit slow the first 16th, she would have had an opportunity to get her feet under and go forward.
But in these two-turn races, they tend to line up sometimes like this, and because the pace was at least honest enough, you had some separation, and she found herself a little bit shuffled back. I actually thought Liberty Island did a good job of rallying on the outside against the grain of the way the race was run. Perfect Freud, who had beaten In Spite of Mama when they both had good trips time before that, I think she ran even better than she did when she actually beat her, even though she lost by almost 3 lengths.
Well, that's interesting, but the question that I'm going to ask you is, who ran better, Perfect Freud or Liberty Island?
That's a good question. I would say Perfect Freud because she was chasing outside the whole way. And at least Liberty Island was able to save ground, as you like to say, on the first turn before going wide in the second turn. She just had worse position.
Right. And the thing, though, that I was looking at was maybe Perfect Freud had the opportunity, because I thought it wasn't a fast pace, it wasn't a slow pace, at least to go forward when the rider wanted to, as opposed to Cornelia having to wait and come out. But I do think being wide on both turns was a tougher trip.
Yeah, it was. But both these horses, the thing is, and I say this having liked In Spite of Mama, so this is not, I think in liking her, I was a little bit lucky actually in liking her, because I'm not sure, she might not know, at the end of the day, if this was a one-turn race, have run the 3rd best race of any of these horses. We'll see, because there may be an opportunity for them to meet again in some New York Red Stake races.
Well, it's always nice when you're cruising on the lead that way and have no company.
Yeah, and she's also an improving horse. Now, the next race we're going to look at is the favorite Malay, who was 3-2 in the 8th race on Thursday's card, and Malay never really had a chance to run.
Well, this is the trip that was glaring.
Shadwell out there, number 3.
This horse was getting a very good trip. And I think we lose sight of one fact. Irad Ortiz, as good a rider as he is still a young guy. And he's going to make mistakes. And I think this ride was a mistake because he overcommitted to one position.
Yeah, no, he really does. And, you know, what happened at the start was the 4 broke sharply as a real speed and didn't go on with it as much as you thought he might. And they didn't go quite as fast as it appeared they might go. And so you got no separation. But interestingly enough, Malay is caught behind horses and has plenty of time to get out. And I was talking to you, he looks over his left shoulder, but we talk so often about riders in front looking over their shoulder. He really needed to know where the 5 was as they turned for home.
Well, and right here you can see, I mean, the 5 horse is getting out. You can see Angel Arroyo's got his head turned pretty severely to the inside. And Irad on Malay has an opportunity here to start sliding out. He could have got in the clear because this horse also, actually all 4 horses outfooted the eventual winner at that point, Johns Island. But once he committed to that inside position, inside the gray horse, now he's got to hope for a spread that never comes.
Yeah, he needs either the 6 to drop out or clear in front. And as you say, he could have easily moved out and he would have lost next to no ground in moving out. And instead, he was a bit of a wise guy sitting in behind horses hoping it worked out. And that was a move that worked a lot for Ramon Dominguez. But Ramon always seemed to find a way to get through with his patience. It didn't work out here for Arad Ortiz.
Well, and there were a few times that Ramon did get unlucky. But the thing about Ramon was he had the ability to steady horses along in traffic without ever taking anything away from them. And that's an art that I have never seen anybody else be able to do. He just had such a finesse about it. This was a case where, obviously, hindsight being 20/20, if he'd have put him in the clear, when Johns Island finally got straightened out, they would have rallied down together, and I think Malay would have beat him.
Worse. And we'll look at the head-on, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Here, he's already overcommitted, and you can see so much in this head-on. He's not even out here. He's already down there in the 2-path, so what chance does he have? And there was plenty of separation. See, if he had been in the 2-path, at that point he might have been able to get outside.
Yeah, but once he made that decision before they turned for home, now he's hooked on that horse's heels. He'd have to check at this point and obviously wouldn't be able to regain that momentum. I think this was a case where he didn't leave his options open, and we talk about that. The best riders over history. Think about Jerry Bailey. If he could hold 3 positions or 3 options, he was going to. Here was a case where he had the ability to hold at least 2, and he decided on 1.
Yeah, it was absolutely a mistake. Now, the question with Malay is, he shows up in a similar race next time. He's at least as short a price. I do think he ran the best race in any of these horses. It's getting frustrating. He needs to hold his form to win it, and I don't think he ran that much better, say, than Glacken 2, who was coming off a layoff, first time for Michelle Nevin, was chasing the pace 3 wide the whole way, never stopped fighting. I don't know how much better he would be than those horses, and what if it's a race where there isn't as much pace and Glacken 2 is able to control up front?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's obvious that this horse, you know, had the worst trip or was the best horse on the day. But there were other things going on that maybe different race setup goes against him.
And I also think the winner, Johns Island, ran very well. As you say, he was getting out in the turns. The second time in a row he's been doing that, and he still overcomes these issues. If he ever gets his head on straight, he's okay.
Well, when a horse gets out around the turn, too, when a rider has to constantly correct them, it's slowing them down. You don't want to have to get in the horse's mouth when the race is heating up like this one was, and that's why you saw the leaders get away from him. He got straightened out. He was able to rally down the middle.
This horse has a nice kick when he gets straightened out in the stretch. We have one more race we want to look at. We're going to talk about a favorite, Organic Gemini, who probably was victimized by his inside post. Wasn't able to get into good position in this race. He didn't break badly. I mean, maybe he broke a half a step slow at the most in here. I feel like there's a moment we're going to show where he gets stayed in the backstretch. I think, while he's not a speed, Manny Franco should have been a little more aggressive for position with him early, and that hurt him.
Yeah, although, you know, when you watch him, Andy, he's got this kind of big loping stride that doesn't look like he's really a 6-furlong horse, maybe, and now going to the main track, getting off the inner track, he's going to have more options to him. Maybe the 7/8 or the mile is going to be much better for this horse.
Well, it's something we talked about. On the inner, you've got 5.5 or 6 around 1 turn, or a mile and farther around 2. Much different. Right in here, there's not that much separation between he and the leaders, but you're going to notice that he's going to steady a little behind horses, and the first 3 are going to open up between them, and now he's found himself about 2-3 lengths farther back than he was, and a lot of it really had to do with getting the inside post.
Yeah, absolutely. He was dealt a bad hand with that post, and he had to fight his way through traffic. I actually thought Manny Franco did a really good job, even having to steady at that one point. That's a very tough position. Then he was able to get through it, but like you said, the horses that 1, 2, 3 early had put in about 5 lengths on him by then.
Now, we talked about this watching it. Manny was hitting left-handed, and then he went to the right-handed stick, and he rallied inside. I want to talk about that some because I think we both think in a perfect world, if he was able to rally outside of horses, he might have gotten up.
Yeah, I think it looked like at turning for home that he was going to start easing out to the clear. But you made a good point off camera to me that this horse has rallied inside a couple of times now, and that maybe he has that propensity to want to lean in and run towards the inside. I think in hindsight, he would have been a little better on the outside.
He would have been in a perfect world. And the question is whether or not he's one of these horses. I mean, there are some horses that don't want to run outside of horses. They actually want to lug in towards the fence. And 2 straight times he's run very good seconds, and both times rallying up the rail. He may be a rare rail runner.
Well, and also if you think about what I said about John's Island, the race before, he's getting out around the turn, the rider's having to correct him. If Manny goes outside with him and the horse is wanting to look in, he's going to have to correct him through the stretch, and he's slowing him down in essence instead of going forward.
And maybe, in retrospect, the funniest thing is he might have been happiest he was on the rail to begin with. I think he's a tough horse to ride. And for that reason, he's going to be a short price next time, and I think you make a very good point. You get 7 furlongs, more distance, whether it's here or at Belmont Park, sort of an easier, evenly run race. I still wonder if he's just going to be a horse at a short price I want to always try to beat.
Well, and he's going to be a favorite again, so and that is the kind of horses you tend to try to beat.
Yeah, because he's just a horse that he needs certain things to go right for him. What happens when he gets an outside post at Belmont Park and he doesn't want to be out there? There's a lot of possibilities with this horse. He'll be a fun horse to follow one way or another.
Well, it will, by then, hopefully, it'll have sorted out whether he is a confirmed inside kind of horse.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, we can always use your help. We'll be getting turf racing back soon. We'll be heading to Belmont Park soon. It's Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com.